Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Director, Defense Information Systems Agency, Lieutenant General Carroll F. Pollett.
Well, I think we've talked enough about it to where everyone here should have an appreciation for the fact that the theme for this conference is the power to connect and an enterprise within reach. I think it's important, as you think about that theme, that we start out with some fundamental definitions to help us put it in context. And I will let you know what the Defense Information System thinks about those terms and what they mean to us. When we talk about power to connect, it expresses an operational objective to achieve and provide our users global access to protected enterprise infrastructure and services anywhere, anytime, on any device, all about leveraging information and, most importantly, enabling decisive leadership. When we talk about the enterprise within reach, this means a DoD enterprise, an information environment that is accessible. When we talk about an enterprise infrastructure and services, we believe it is the foundational capabilities that establish an integrated platform. What do we mean by that? We don't mean stovepipe capabilities. We're talking about networking. It's bigger than transport. We're talking about computing. We're talking about information assurance, and we're talking about enterprise services. It's about enabling operational effectiveness, and it's about gaining efficiencies. And we're going to talk about a little bit of that today as I give my remarks to you. Let me begin real quickly here by welcoming you all to this event. I think at our last count we had around 5,200 people register, and actually we still had people as I was coming in that were registering to come into the event. I want you to understand that a lot of thought went into bringing this talented group together from military, government, and industry so we could think together and share information. You've got a world-class group of leaders that are going to be here this week to talk to you about their vision and their constructs for being able to utilize the enterprise infrastructure and be able to connect to it. You're going to get to hear an operator, a COCOM commander, General McNabb, talk to you about his experiences and his expectations as a user. You're going to hear one of our senior leaders in industry, with Mr. Chambers from Cisco, talk to you and give you some insights of what he would challenge us to think about to help us meet these requirements. Our own Deputy Secretary of Defense has made time to be here today to give us his insights and perspectives of what he thinks we have to do to be able to support the national level leadership and the warfighters. Additionally, we're going to have Mr. Paul Moritz tomorrow from VMware that will talk with us. Our one and only Mr. Mahelsik, the Chief Technology Officer, will bring together a world-class industry panel to challenge us tomorrow in our thinking processes. Mrs. Kathleen Miller will talk to us about contracting and the industry forecast tomorrow afternoon to let industry know what our requirements are. And then Mr. Kai, the DoD CIO, will lead a panel with all the CIOs and G6s from the different services to talk about the environment they're operating in and how we can work together to converge technology and capabilities for the warfighter. And then our wrap-up batter is Vice Admiral Mike Lefevre, who's just turning from Pakistan as a commander, and will talk to us about his expectations and what we could do better to support him in that environment with command and control capabilities. This is a phenomenal partnership. And the people that we brought together for this partnership, I think, will set the condition for some terrific intellectual engagement this week to accomplish the task at hand, and that's to better understand the requirement and how to optimize technology to solve some of those problems. I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment to thank the Maryland Congressional Delegation. I've spent more time with them in the last 2 years doing this BRAC move than I can tell you about. But they have been phenomenal with support from Governor O'Malley and especially Lieutenant Governor Brown in terms of working at every point to help us have a successful move to Maryland. And that's one of the reasons we're sitting here in Baltimore this morning, because of the great partnership we've established with the state of Maryland. It's been terrific. And I will tell you, we could not have done it without all the help that we've had. We've closed 4,500 people on Fort Meade. We're not doing anything in the National Capital Region now except shutting down buildings. We've converged all of our labs into a 58,000 square foot facility so we can bring more industry in to work with us to the latest capabilities that we can apply against the network. Last year, you know, we had a flood in Tennessee, and we had to go at a mini conference at the National Defense University. I want to let you know that we do have a submarine out here in the bay for you. I think it only holds about 38 people, so you better be rushing if you have to get to the submarine to get out of here, okay? But the bottom line is we did still have a mini conference last year with industry and government, and I talked to you then about our theme, which was setting the conditions for the next engagement. And in the process of setting those conditions for the next engagement, we talked about what's the entry fee for that in terms of providing capabilities to the warfighter. And it was clear that we had to establish protected enterprise infrastructure and protected enterprise services if we were going to achieve the capabilities that the warfighters expect. Bottom line, enable command and control, simultaneous situation awareness, and decisive decision-making for the users. That's been our focus consistently in our partnership with you as we've leveraged technology to get at those requirements. I don't think you can start talking about anything when it comes to technology and the requirements we see today without stopping for a second and just looking at where we've been over the last 10 years. And in particular, in the last 6 months, to have 6 simultaneous operations going on, what did we learn from that? What fundamental ideas reinforced our principles in terms of what we're required to do in relation to supporting the user? So I just want to hit some of these events that have been going on and what we took out of those events to help us codify and identify how we were going to shape our way ahead as I lay out some challenges for you in the future as we continue to talk this morning. Take the first event, Tomodachi, because we literally have been involved across the full spectrum of operations from humanitarian to kinetic in terms of what we've been doing to support both warfighters and national level leaders. What came out loud and clear is that the capacity is not enough. If you don't have the diversity to complement capacity, then you truly do not have resilience. And without resilience, you can't assure survivability. Once again, the requirement for information sharing among international partners, interagencies, and non-government were absolutely critical for what the leadership had to do to be able to operate in that environment, both on a national and a nation level in terms of support. Operations Libya, transition from a U.S.-led operation to a NATO-led operation. What was the demand signal? More bandwidth, more satellite capacity. Our ability to be agile in terms of providing real-time satellite capacity was absolutely critical. The demand signal for collaboration, C2, joint planning were absolutely crucial. And we found again that we had not solved the problem on information sharing when we transitioned from a U.S.-led operation to a NATO-led operation. Now, we adapted, we overcame, we got the capability there, but that's not the way to support the warfighter. New Dawn, the new title name that we're using in Iraq now for what's going on with the drawdown. Significant efforts going on in terms of force consolidation and reductions and consolidation of locations. How do we reset the infrastructure, both from a fiber, terrestrial level to a space level in terms of meshing that capability to optimize the utilization? How do we give the international connectivity and how do we support the 12 strategic sites that have been identified by the leadership. Tremendous requirements in today's environment in terms of teaming and working together that we're finding the need, working with the State Department as well as interagencies to be able to not just look at how to use each other's capability, but to be more efficient in the process of doing that. The constraint environment we're operating in today is requiring a completely new think across the department in terms of how we optimize each other's capability to provide command and control. Then we follow our way around the world to Afghanistan, to enduring freedom. We look at how we're bringing the infrastructure together both inside the country and external to the country to provide greater capacity. We're looking at the convergence of the mesh between the satellite layer and the air layer to optimize the diversity and the capacity in that theater to support the warfighter. Absolutely critical. Moving forward with ISAF secret level collaboration video to allow the commander to be able to communicate with all forces while reducing the attack surface against U.S. capabilities as we share information and collaborate. Because you can no longer get away with just providing unclassified or classified. You got to have both. And so our attempts in the cross-domain solution have been critical in terms of what we're able to do to give that complete picture to the user. Today we've put about 400 push-to-talk SATCOM nets on the ground to support Iraq and Afghanistan. We've got about 6,000 users on it with the ability to expand to greater utilization. We're utilizing the Afghan mission work as a template for how we would build allied mission networks in the future and how we would establish capability at the phase 0 level that would train the way we fight as we continue to operate across coalition and NATO forces in the future. The cyber domain. What a new challenge. Or maybe it's always been a challenge. We're just calling it new. But it's persistent, it's global, and it's hostile. Our focus in terms of how we look at our readiness posture in that environment is absolutely critical in terms of what we're doing to operate. We're actively exploiting technology with industry's help to give us a machine-to-machine capability that allows us to have a more aggressive and active defense in terms of what we're doing. The demand for an operational C2 relationships and an orders process to complement what we have to do horizontally is absolutely critical for our success. No longer can we operate vertically if we're going to be able to respond to the threat that's coming at us in cyber domain. DISA's relationship with Cybercom has been absolutely critical as we've leveraged their operational orders process and worked to partner with the services in terms of the execution of the active defense globally and what we have to do each and every day. While we've been responsive to these events, and we could talk about what we've done, it's kind of like I was telling Mr. Chambers this morning at breakfast, nobody really cares about what you did yesterday. They really don't care what you did today. What they really want to know is, what are you going to do tomorrow for me? Because I want more, and I want it better, and I want it more capable. So let's talk about what we've got to do to set the conditions for the future. You know, in our organization, and this is not unique to us, we can make the same story for all the service components in terms of what we do every day to operate and provision and assure capabilities to the user. It never stops. And we're constantly dealing with the challenges that affect the enterprise in terms of supporting the user. And we're constantly trying to anticipate the problem so we can adjust accordingly so the operator never has a concern about always being on in terms of their capabilities. We've got about 130 enterprise initiatives that we're working across DISA in partnership with the services, the agencies, and the COCOMs. And I will tell you right now, they're high risk. And they're going to challenge us to have to really exercise key leadership in a changing culture if we're going to make the kind of changes that are going to be expected in terms of not just providing capabilities, but also dealing with the constraints with the resource environment we're operating in today. What I want to do is I want to highlight about 6 initiatives that I think are cornerstones to setting the change in this environment today, and some of the challenges that I'm going to present to industry today as well as DOD in terms of how we have to get at solving these problems and what I think will be the dominoes that help us achieve a true, transparent, secure enterprise infrastructure that can really be informed by the edge in terms of providing services to the user. The first one, fundamental, is communications and collaboration. Our ability to integrate and mesh the SATCOM and terrestrial environments is absolutely crucial if we're going to diversify and build the capacity to support an agile environment that has to operate in a kinetic and a non-kinetic environment. We keep talking about everything over IP. We've got to quit talking about it. We've got to get to the solution. We've got to move data. We've got to move collaboration. We've got to move video into this integrated platform if we're going to truly achieve these capabilities in the future. And we've got to optimize the IP modems that are being introduced if we're truly going to create this mesh environment within the enterprise that gives us survivability or resilience in the fields that we have to operate in. Now, we've got an IP video pilot that we're working right now to integrate video and collaboration over IP. It's our objective by December is to know the good and the bad and the ugly out of that pilot so we can take best practices in our engagement with the industry, determine how to better solve these problems that we're facing today in the current environment. Many of you heard talk about JIE and GEN. JIE is the Joint Information Environment. That's really a conceptual construct for what we're trying to achieve across the global environment. GEN, the Joint Enterprise Network, is really focused on the effort with what we're doing right now with EUCOM, AFRICOM, and the Army to converge the transport layer and get greater utilization out of the transport layer and do it more efficiently and take the investment capital we take out of that to optimize places where we do not have the capacity or the diversity to support the user. In addition to that effort, we're doing a data architecture effort. And right now we're working with the Army at our level and their level with their software engineering centers to rationalize applications so the transport and the data architecture and the security architecture are integrated and synchronized as an enterprise infrastructure. This is hard. Our resourcing models don't support this construct. Our culture doesn't support this construct. But the leadership is trying to bring this effort together and converge our focus to look at a different way of providing operational capability more effectively. We've got a major effort going on in the European theater, and we've got the starts of it in the Pacific Rim as a proof of principle for how we want to operate both near term and in the future. Enterprise services. This is about working with each other to take advantage of best practices, of the right way to do operational support. Many of you have heard about enterprise emails. Anybody in here hadn't heard about enterprise email? Okay? You will not believe the pressure we're feeling on enterprise email in our partnership with the Army. It is absolutely a game changer. Now listen to me closely. Enterprise email is important because every time somebody can't do their email, trust me, I hear about it, okay? But that's just a service, and it is important. I will tell you what's really important about enterprise email besides the basic service. It's what our engineers are doing behind the curtain, if you will, to change the environment. To look at how the enterprise infrastructure is built and scaled, how we address the authoritative ID data sources, to be able to protect the user and assure information and protect that information for decision making. It's how we're trying to address this enterprise Active Directory problem we've had for years. To bring this enterprise infrastructure together so that it's a secure environment, a scalable environment that allows us to provide capabilities to the user. Right now today, we've got 89,000 users in the enterprise intermail environment. Next week, we'll start moving 10,000 a week. People were concerned because we went into a tactical pause this past month. We had to clean up the battlefield. We've had the best minds in industry working with the Army and DISA to figure out how to solve some significant technology issues. And we're working that very aggressively. We will move 1.4 million users to this capability between now and sometime second quarter of FY12. The Army, DLA, DISA, and 3 COCOMs, AFRICOM, EUCOM, and U.S. Transcom, to do a proof of principle. The Air Force is right seat riding with us. The Navy's watching over the horizon. Everyone's looking, can we solve this problem, and it can be taken advantage of, and it could truly be a significant game changer within the department. Our efforts with the Navy are critical too. Right now we're working SharePoint efforts with the Navy. We partner with the Navy on SharePoint. And we started with all their shipyards in terms of bringing their SharePoint capability into what you call the decks. I'm translating them into being called enterprise service centers. You know, we used to call them, they were kind of like mainframe operating centers in the past. Then we moved them to data centers. But today they're truly becoming enterprise service centers with their responsibilities to be able to support the users, real time. And I'll assure you that Mr. Rivera and our teams are actively engaged in resetting the conditions for the way we provide services to the edge. But the Navy has brought all its shipyard SharePoint into the enterprise service center environment, and their next step is to virtualize it. Another proof of concept and capability that can be translated over to other services as we continue to work the SharePoint solution sets. And other services are lining up to be able to optimize and take advantage of those services as well. In the United States Air Force, their focus with us has been looking at what we call platform as a service. And their focus has been around the application environment. And how do you rationalize software and determine what applications you can get rid of, which ones are worth retaining, and which ones just need to be replaced with new applications of software to be able to allow us to be more effective. All of these things are having an impact on our ability to move forward aggressively with enterprise services. Let's talk about mission assurance. What do we mean when we talk about mission assurance? We're really talking about a protected environment that allows a commander freedom of action in cyberspace. Phenomenal energy going into this growth industry as we continue to engage with this persistent environment. One of the things that we're focused on is how to better utilize the DMZs, what we call risk zones, so we can determine access for the mission networks. There's different requirements for Transcom in terms of availability of the network versus what it might be for PACOM, which might be much more open. And we have to be able to adjust the environments to be able to support the demand of the user in terms of what their mission sets are. NIPRNet hardening, you've heard of that. That's our efforts to harden and build the enterprise infrastructure with web content filtering so we can literally move many of the enterprise security capabilities into the enterprise, reducing the attack surface and creating better security from the enterprise down to the user that we're supporting. And then cyber readiness inspections. This is something we've been very aggressive about over the last year. This is not just a technical inspection. This is about readiness posture. This is about redefining the responsibility of the commander to be accountable for his battle space. It's about leveraging technology that gets us beyond the normal inspection process and allows us to use machine-to-machine capability to give us situational awareness of lack of compliance. We have not been able to reach as far in DISA supporting Cybercom with the inspection process. So we're working very, very aggressively with the services to bring them online to allow the services to start inspecting themselves. They'll still have to report out to Cybercom, but if each of the services inspect themselves and we focus on the COCOMs and the agency levels, we can get a lot more impact in terms of ensuring that we're cleaning this environment up and we're building the machine solutions that give us visibility of where the threat's at or where the threat's coming from at us. The Navy led the way on this in our partnership. We just conducted our first CCRI with the Navy right seat riding on the aircraft carrier USS Lincoln underway. What was powerful about it was not the fact that the technicians were into the details of the wiring and the information assurance aspects and all the standards. The fact was the commander was involved, wanting to understand how he can ensure the cyber domain protected his intellectual capital and the ability to operate. I sat on a video teleconference and watched a commander of an aircraft carrier engage with 10th Fleet in terms of addressing the issues of readiness posture. Total game changer in relation to the way we're looking at this environment today. Let's talk about coalition information sharing. This is that thing I told you that ranks up there with bandwidth. And this is what we're looking for in terms of finding a way that allows information sharing between coalition forces, interagency, and non-government. The cross-domain solution work that we've done with NSA has been invaluable in terms of allowing us to crosswalk the connectivity between the classified and unclassified environment. Cybercom has stood up with the J8 and accepted responsibility to look at the CONOPS and the operational requirements to be able to support information sharing globally. The DoD CIO and DISA are going to be the critical players in this in terms of the architecting and engineering to solve this problem. But it's clearly allowed demand signal in terms of what we have to do to reshape how we support command and control both tomorrow and in the future. And last but not least, mobile operations. If you're not talking about mobile operations in the days to market, I don't care whether you're talking state-of-the-art iPhones or whether you're talking the state-of-the-art tablets, then you're not in the game in terms of what's required today. We're working these STIGs hard. Every time I meet with somebody in the field, a warfighter, they're asking me why they can't have this new capability that industry has on their desk every day. And we're fighting the security aspects and the standards that are required to secure that environment. You got to help us with that if we're going to overcome the problems that we're facing with the security aspects of this technology. We do not want to build this technology inside of DoD. We want to leverage the best technology available within industry and bring it into the environment so we can consume it and use it as our command and control capabilities. Many of you are aware that we recently released an RFI to industry on mobile virtual networks and operational concepts. We're anxiously looking at what you're going to come back with that will help us be able to address these requirements and talk about how we can move forward on this as we engage with the Army and their efforts and we engage with NSA on some of the work they're doing with the current commercial phone technologies and tablets. You know, I've only hit about 6 items here, which I really don't believe is a surprise to you. I think you understand these are the areas that the department's looking at and the complexity of what we're trying to solve here to bring this capability to the user. I think these are critical elements that are going to be able to help us affect the enterprise infrastructure, and they're going to be critical elements that allow us to provide the kind of devices that our service members expect to be able to operate on securely no matter where they are in the world in terms of what they're trying to do. So here's the challenge I'll lay out to you. And I'm kind of repeating it for you based on what I've talked about today to be sure you got it, okay? You're going to have to get over the fact that DoD is a private network, okay? I can't change that, okay? We've tried to put together, we didn't try, we did it. We put what we call a gig convergent master plan together, which was an attempt to put together an engineering packet, if you will, that allowed us guidelines in terms of how we operate in this environment to standards. We're going to need your help as we continue to evolve those documents and make this more of a DoD-wide construct for how we do engineering so we can meet on the same playing field in terms of overcoming interoperability issues. We're going more and more and more to performance-based contracting. We have got to be able to measure what we're given in terms of capabilities and ensure that they meet the needs and the requirements that we have in this constrained environment. And you got to help us. You got to help us leverage and adapt to your commercial technology. You really have got to get away from the proprietary solutions. You've got to give me the open architecture and standards that allow us to be able to adapt to the environments that we're trying to operate in, or we will not meet the objectives we've established ourselves for an enterprise or services that we take to the users at the edge. Because it is tough work, and we can't put black boxes between our capabilities. So, priorities, in case you didn't write them down while I was talking, help me solve this mobile phone problem. I know most of you engineers in industry here are probably using your tablets, so whatever works for you, okay? The mobile piece, absolutely critical. Coalition information sharing, communications and collaboration, enterprise services, and mission assurance. Those are the things that you could weight your effort into in terms of helping us to address the challenges we've got today. At the same time I offer that challenge to industry, I would look out there to my fellow DOD and military counterparts and tell you we got to quit thinking about the enterprise, and we got to start believing and looking at how we're going to shape the enterprise. We got to think enterprise, not talk about enterprise, if we're truly going to change the dynamics of how we provide capabilities to the users. In the services and the department, we've got to quit duplicating each other's efforts. We've got to converge our investment strategies in relation to how we execute and provide capabilities to the user, and we've got to leverage each other's successes. And I've tried to give you just a taste today of how we're trying to do that with each of the services. We're looking at the resourcing models that's been established within the department, and we recognize they're not right. And that's one of the things we're working with Mr. Kai on at the CIO level and the senior leadership of DOD and the service levels is how do we adjust the resourcing model to be able to make efficiencies the right way to incentivize what we have to do to bring capabilities to bear. Right now, it doesn't incentivize it. In fact, it actually does the opposite. So we've got to adjust the resourcing model at the highest levels if we're going to affect some of these. It frustrates me, I know it frustrates the services, and I know it frustrates industry. At the end of the day, I come right back to what I started out with you with, is that we've got to make the enterprise accessible. There's got to be global access, anywhere, anytime, on any device. The leadership at the national level and the warfighter level expect it. And it does not only translate in to providing capability to conduct kinetic operations or humanitarian assistance, it saves lives. Because it changes the whole dynamics with how we leverage information and allow leaders to make decisive decisions to affect the outcomes of mission and protect their people. That's what this is about, this thing called Power to Connect and Enterprise and Reach. So hopefully I've given you a better understanding of what we're thinking about in the Defense Information Systems Agency, because it's not about us. It's not about DISA. It's about the partnership. It's about the teaming. It's about how we come together within the department at the service component level, the agency level, the COCOM level, to be able to ensure that we've got the right requirements on the table, that we're leveraging the best technology that industry can bring to bear, and we're applying it against capability for the user. That's what we're after today. So thank you. I'll take a couple of questions. You're going to have to be quick. Okay, I don't see any questions up. You have a question, sir?
Yes, sir. One of the toughest things to change is culture.
Mm-hmm.
And to make the changes you're talking about requires culture to change. How do you get over that hurdle within the defense organization?
The question he asked, because you couldn't hear him, was, he says, the toughest challenge you tend to face, I would say in any organization, is how to overcome the culture. And with an organization as big as DoD, how do you overcome that culture? I think it's leadership. I think at the end of the day, we have to be willing to make some hard decisions. And I think that that leadership has to be permeated down through the chain of command in relation to a new way of thinking. I will tell you, one of the things that's helping the department exercise that level of thinking is cost constraints. It has been a forcing action that has affected culture. And it's probably affected it more significantly probably in the last 12 to 18 months in terms of converging talent together to look at how to gain efficiencies and helped us get beyond some of the traditional culture barriers that we had. But I think it's leadership at the end of the day. And I think the leadership at the senior levels get it. I think what we have to do is be sure that we're spending the time with our mid-grade leaders and junior leaders to ensure they understand what we're trying to do to change this environment and what it's going to take to do it. And I think we have to take some of the barriers down that are around them, that are confining them in terms of best business practices in some case, to be able to adapt and see opportunities to take initiative based on how we've built the resourcing models to be able to allow them to use their innovative ideas and see some real return on those results and see the importance of that changing culture. Does that answer your question, sir? Okay. It's probably the hardest thing that I deal with every day is culture in terms of what we have to do to change it. And I just got to believe, if I went in this room, I can't believe you don't have similar problems in your organizations, whether you're military, government, or industry. And it looks to me, when I look at industry out there and successes, I see industries that have been able to get over that culture barrier in terms of changing the dynamic of their organization, in terms of gaining efficiencies and getting results. And I would probably argue part of the way they do that is through, the bottom line. Okay? Our bottom line is protecting American men and women in combat. We don't have a choice. We have to deliver capability to those men and women that are serving their nation. So we owe it to them to optimize our investment strategies so we can provide them the very, very best capabilities required on the ground today. That's what we're charged with as leaders, and that's what we have the responsibility to do. Once we start thinking about our battle space, our personal battle space, and our agendas, then we've lost what it means to serve and be committed to the larger requirements of supporting our forces. Okay? One more question, and I got to get the commander up here. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I just wanted to know the date of the RFI you mentioned in regard to the smartphones, cellular technology, iPads and such.
Well, I have all those dates right off the top of my head, so that'll be an easy answer.
Thank you.
I would ask you, if I could, Ms. Kathleen Miller is going to lead the industry forecast tomorrow. We purposely converged that event into this so that while industry was present, we could give you some kind of feel of the forecast and opportunities that we're looking at in the near term. They'll have those dates there for when that RFI went out, and probably can even give you a copy of the RFI so that you can see what we've provided out on the street for people to look at and give us feedback. Is that fair?
Super. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to kind of cut it short here. I'm going to be here all week. If you don't see me here listening to our keynote speakers, or you don't find me in a track, you're going to find me walking around talking to you at your booths like I did last night, trying to understand, what can you do for us? That's what I was asking you last night. What's new that you're doing that's going to help us be more effective at what we have to do to support the warfighter? I would ask you to take advantage this week, no matter what level of leadership you are. You don't have to be a corporate vice president to come to these. You need to come listen to what these senior leaders have to tell you in these plenary sessions. You need to go to these tracks. We've purposely organized them as engagement opportunities or fire zones. Challenge us. Challenge our facilitators. Ask hard questions and have dialogue so we can figure out what the art of the possible is in terms of what we're doing. Do not miss the opportunity to visit the exhibit hall. World-class exhibit hall here with industry's best in terms of the technologies that are available that we can talk about and address to be able to support our requirements. A lot of energy is going into this effort by industry on that floor, and I do not want to miss a chance to challenge them at every booth. And if they don't tell me something that I can use, I move on to the next booth. How's that? I'm looking for ideas. Okay, I'm not looking for a marketing pitch. And there's some good folks out there that got some good ideas, and we need to leverage it and take the opportunity. And I think most of you are aware that AFCEA is going to sponsor a networking event tonight at the Baltimore Aquarium. I'm going to be there. So if you don't want to come for any other reason, come corner me up and ask me a question like y'all did last night. But I think we can handle about almost 2,000 people at that thing tonight. So, if you've registered, good. If you haven't registered, you come out and continue to engage and talk. That's the power of this event this week, is sharing of information, talking, thinking, and looking at how we can work together to provide capabilities to the warfighter. We're honored today to have a COCOM commander here. The U.S. Transcom commander, just finishing up his 3rd year in command. General McNabb is a phenomenal leader. He's not only a warfighter, he's also an IT expert, okay? I've been absolutely amazed at his savvy, but I think it's reflective of what we're seeing in our senior operators today, is they recognize the fact that their combat multiplier is their ability to leverage technology to be able to optimize and gain precision engagement with what they have to do to accomplish their mission. He's clearly recognized as an IT expert, in my opinion, and I'm honored to be able to recognize General McNabb, the COCOM commander for U.S. Transcom, to the stage to speak to you this morning. Thank you, sir.